The United States Army has a brand new rifle. It is called the M7. It fires a larger, more powerful cartridge that can punch through the body armor American enemies now use as standard equipment. It is issued with a quick detach suppressor, a digital fire control system that calculates ballistics in real time, and a laser rangefinder that gives every rifleman capabilities once reserved for snipers. The Army started fielding it in 2024. Units are training on it right now. And yet, as of today, the M4 Carbine, a rifle first adopted in 1994, remains the standard weapon for most of the United States Army. Not in storage, not transitioning out. In daily service, in the hands of hundreds of thousands of soldiers, in every theater where Americans are deployed.
The Army tried to replace it before. Not once, multiple times. Every effort either failed outright or produced the same conclusion. A better rifle is not the same as a replaceable one. The dark reason the M4 is still in service is not that the Army couldn't build something better. They proved they could. The reason is that replacing a weapon woven into the logistics, training, and doctrine of an entire military is a fundamentally different problem. And for 30 years, no one fully solved it. To understand the M4, you have to understand what it descended from, and why that lineage became a liability. The M16 entered Vietnam in 1966 as the lightest, highest-velocity service rifle any military had ever issued. American planners believed the wars of the future would be short, fast, and mobile. Soldiers needed to carry ammunition in volume. Lighter bullets meant more rounds per soldier. The smaller 5.56mm cartridge was a deliberate choice built on a specific theory. In most firefights, suppression mattered more than terminal power. You did not need to kill every enemy. You needed to put enough rounds downrange to hold the ground. What happened in Vietnam was the M16's near destruction as a concept. The early rifles jammed chronically in jungle humidity. Soldiers died because their weapons stopped working at the worst possible moment. An investigation later found that the Army had changed the ammunition without informing the troops, creating a mismatch between powder burn rate and cycling speed that turned a serviceable weapon into a liability. By the time the problem was fixed, the M16 had earned a reputation it spent decades trying to shed. The M4 was the answer to a different problem. By 1994, Cold War planning had evolved. Armies were going to be smaller. Soldiers would fight in tighter spaces, vehicles, buildings, alleyways. The full-length M16 was too long. Its 20-inch barrel caught door frames, snagged equipment, made it difficult to dismount from helicopters under fire. The M4 kept the same operating system and the same 5.56mm cartridge, but shortened the barrel to 14.5 inches and added a collapsible stock. Lighter, more maneuverable, faster in close quarters. Also, as the Army would eventually be forced to acknowledge, built for the wrong war. The shorter barrel reduced muzzle velocity. At close range, inside 300 meters, the 5.56mm round performed adequately. Past 400 meters, in the open mountain terrain of Afghanistan, where insurgents learned to engage American patrols from distances the M4 struggled to answer, the physics worked against it. The bullet lost energy faster than the longer M16 barrel allowed. Soldiers reported hitting enemies who kept moving. The Army logged the complaints. Then came Wanat. July 13, 2008. Combat Outpost Kalar, Wanat District, Kunar Province, Afghanistan. 48 American soldiers from the 2nd Battalion, 503rd Infantry Regiment had been at the position for 5 days. They had not finished building their defenses. The Taliban had been watching them since they arrived. In the early hours of that morning, somewhere between 100 and 200 fighters launched a coordinated assault from multiple directions simultaneously. Machine guns, rocket-propelled grenades, mortars. The Americans called in Apache helicopters, artillery, and eventually a B-1 bomber. They held the outpost. 9 soldiers died, 27 more were wounded.
What emerged in the aftermath was a finding the Army did not want to discuss publicly. Multiple M4 carbines failed during the battle. Military investigations and reporting documented repeated stoppages and overheating at a critical moment. Exactly the failure mode direct impingement carbines suffer under sustained high-tempo fire. One soldier documented firing approximately 360 rounds in the first 30 minutes, 12 magazines. He could no longer charge his rifle to load another round. The barrel had become too hot to touch. He threw the rifle down. The problem was structural. The M4 uses a direct impingement operating system. Hot propellant gases from each shot are cycled back into the receiver to drive the bolt and load the next round. Under sustained rapid fire, those gases superheat the entire mechanism. The M4's recommended rate of fire assumes intervals between shots that give the gun time to cool. In a firefight where you are outnumbered 4-1 and the enemy is moving toward your position, you do not fire at the recommended rate. Picture what that meant to the soldiers at Wanat. They had been issued a weapon the Army's own internal reports had flagged as early as 2001 as likely to fail under exactly those conditions. The heavy weapons that were supposed to anchor their defense had been knocked out by Taliban fire early in the battle. Everything depended on the rifles in individual soldiers' hands. And those rifles, pushed past the rate of fire they were designed around, stopped working. The Army's internal investigation was leaked and became a congressional flashpoint. A military historian later alleged that his official account of Wanat had been altered by senior officers to protect the rifle's reputation. After Wanat, Congress pushed for a competitive replacement. The Army ran trials comparing the M4 against the HK416, the FN SCAR, and other gas piston designs. Systems that run cooler under sustained fire because hot gases are vented away from the operating mechanism, rather than cycled back through it. In the Army's 2007 extreme dust testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground, the M4 recorded 882 stoppages over the test cycle. The HK416 recorded 233. The XM8 recorded 116. Those numbers were not classified. They were reported, debated, entered into the congressional record. The results were not new. The Army had seen them before Wanat. It had upgraded the M4 anyway, heavier barrel, full auto capability, and kept it. The reason was not denial, it was arithmetic. 500,000 M4s in the field, a logistics and training network representing decades of institutional investment. Replacing the rifle meant not just buying new weapons, but rebuilding every layer underneath them. The Army's estimates put a full replacement at several $billion. For improvements that would matter most in scenarios representing a fraction of actual engagements. The M4 was flawed. Removing it was judged more expensive than improving it. Wanat was not the first time the Army had tried to move past the M16 family. It was not even the fifth. The effort to replace it began in the mid-1980s. The Advanced Combat Rifle program ran from 1986 to 1990, testing 4 entirely new weapons designed to offer a revolutionary leap in hit probability. Duplex rounds, projectiles containing 2 bullets that separated in flight to increase the chance of striking a moving target. Flechette ammunition, caseless cartridges that eliminated the brass casing entirely, reducing weight and simplifying cycling. The Army tested all of them against the M16A2. None outperformed it by the required margin. The program ended without a replacement. A decade later came the Objective Individual Combat Weapon, the OICW, a combination rifle and grenade launcher on a single platform, with an airburst grenade programmable to detonate at a precise range. Above a soldier in a trench, behind a wall, anywhere cover would otherwise protect the enemy. The technology worked. The system was described as weighing around 18 pounds in its combined configuration. Soldiers carrying it could not also carry the ammunition, water, and equipment a combat deployment requires. It was shelved. In 2004, the Army came closer than it ever had. The XM8, developed by Heckler & Koch from a proven German military design, was lighter than the M4, more modular, and passed reliability testing at rates that embarrassed its competitor. Prototype versions were photographed with soldiers at Fort Benning. Field evaluations were underway. Then, in 2005, shifting acquisition priorities ended it before a formal contract was ever awarded.
After Wanat forced the issue publicly, the Army tried once more. In 2011, it launched the individual Carbine competition, a formal open solicitation asking industry to submit anything better than the M4. 8 manufacturers entered designs. The Army set a clear threshold: a 50% reduction in stoppages over the M4A1 under identical test conditions. The submissions were tested for 2 years. In June 2013, the Army declared no winner. Not one of the 8 designs met the minimum reliability threshold. The Army had gone looking for a reason to replace the M4, and the industry could not give it one.
The pattern held every time. A better weapon would emerge, pass testing, advance toward adoption, and then disappear. Killed by cost, shifting requirements, or the judgment that the improvement was not large enough to justify the disruption. The M16 family survived not by winning competitions. It survived by outlasting every challenger. The M7 is not a canceled program. Units of the 101st Airborne Division and the 75th Ranger Regiment received it in 2024. The 25th Infantry Division was training on it in early 2026. There is a procurement plan covering more than 100,000 rifles stretching into the 2030s. No pending cancellation, no administrative hold. It is actually happening. The case for the M7 is built entirely around the threat the Army expects to fight next. China and Russia have equipped their infantry with body armor that 5.56mm rounds cannot reliably defeat at combat ranges. The 6.8mm cartridge the M7 fires was engineered to solve that. Greater penetration at distance, enough energy to defeat the plate carriers that would stop the M4's round. In Afghanistan, American soldiers outgunned the Taliban at close range, but sometimes lost the longer exchange. Against a peer adversary in open terrain, that gap becomes decisive. The M157 fire control optic changes the calculation further. It integrates a laser rangefinder, ballistic calculator, atmospheric sensor suite, and digital display overlay, adjusting the aiming point automatically for range, wind, and temperature. Technology previously reserved for vehicle-mounted systems is now standard kit for every soldier in a close combat unit. The intent is to close the gap between an average shooter and a trained one, to put capability in the system that used to live entirely in the soldier. Here's the number that defines the limit of all of that. The M7 is going to close combat units only: infantry, cavalry scouts, combat engineers, forward observers. The procurement plan covers roughly 107,000 rifles. The rest of the Army, hundreds of thousands of soldiers outside those close combat formations, will keep carrying the M4 for the foreseeable future. Army officials have said so directly. The broader force carries it into the 2030s at minimum. The infrastructure underneath that decision is what makes it immovable. The training pipelines, armorer schools, qualification ranges, spare parts networks, and decades of accumulated tactical doctrine are all built around a 5.56mm platform. The M7 does not inherit any of it. It starts over in a corner of the force and expands outward across a decade. The combined program, rifles, automatic rifles, fire control optics, is projected at over $7 billion for that corner alone. Extending it to the full Army has not been proposed. The M4 will be in American soldiers' hands for at least another decade, probably longer, in the units the M7 never reaches. That means a rifle designed for a post-Cold War vision of short, mobile warfare, one that strained under the weight of Wanat, that lost every competitive trial against gas piston alternatives, that fires a cartridge the Army itself has declared inadequate against peer threats, will remain the weapon most American soldiers carry into whatever comes next. The Army knew about the problems. They were publicly documented, argued over in Congress, covered in every major defense publication for 2 decades. The Army ran the trials, read the reports, and kept reaching the same answer. The cost of replacing it exceeded the cost of keeping it. The dark reason the M4 is still in service is that better does not mean replaceable. Not overnight, not cheaply, not without dismantling 30 years of infrastructure built around a platform that is good enough for most soldiers, in most situations, most of the time. The M7 is a better rifle. The Army chose it, but it chose it for 107,000 soldiers, not for the force. The M4 earned the only fate a weapon like this ever gets. Not a battlefield vindication, not a triumphant retirement, but a slow and expensive phase-out that will outlast the rifle's own service life.
If you want to understand why military systems outlive the wars they were built for, subscribe. We cover the real stories behind the weapons that shaped warfare every week.